You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my review for In a Violent Nature. Now, before we get into this review, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. In a Violent Nature is a 2024 horror film written and directed by Chris Nash. When a group of teenagers takes a locket from a collapsed fire tower in the woods, they unwittingly resurrect the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 60-year-old crime. The undead killer then embarks on a bloody rampage to retrieve the stolen locket, methodically slaughtering anyone that gets in their way. The film stars Andrea Pavlovich and Ryan Barrett. So, In a Violent Nature premiered at the 2024 Sundance Film Festival as part of their Midnight series and was acquired by Shudder in partnership with IFC, who is releasing the film theatrically on May 31st before the film goes to the Shudder streaming services later 2024. And this was one of the horror films I was most excited for in 2024. Honestly, at first, I thought this was some sort of Jason movie. I thought this was the new Friday the 13th I had been hearing about. But as I watched the trailers, I realized that wasn't the case. But a movie centered on our serial killer, our slasher killer, as the main character that we go through his point of view. Yeah, I was really excited to check this one out. Plus, it was getting a lot of positive buzz. The trailers looked cool. I could not wait for this movie. Ugh! And that's why it pains me so much to say I was highly disappointed in a Violent Nature. Yeah, this one did not do it for me, y'all. Yeah, the mediocre to bad horror trend of 2024 rages on. But let's go ahead and kick things off with the positives first. Well, my biggest positive is, in fact, the idea, the concept, following and centering your horror film on the killer who is hunting down these teenagers, who's walking through the forest to find these kids, is really intriguing, really cool, a really novel idea that I think fans of the horror genre have kind of wanted to see for a long time, whether it be in video game fashion, where we're getting to be the killer, or in a film, getting that perspective, centering on the actual killer themselves and making them the main character. Yeah, that's awesome. And when we lean into that, I do think there is some quality material to be had. Honestly, with this film and that amazing concept, if you had just sparsed it down and given me a good short film, I think this would be aces. As it is, not so much, but the groundwork is there. I did also appreciate the cinematography, though I do think it goes in and out of being really strong cinematography on what is very clearly a very small budget. The film looks really gorgeous a lot of the time. It fully utilizes its wood-like setting, which is not something a lot of other horror films can say. Yeah, it's another cabin in the woods out in the mountains somewhere, but they really take advantage of the gorgeous forest around them. And yeah, the kills are definitely brutal. If you're here for gore, then this is a horror film for you. And on top of being very brutal, the kills are also pretty inventive. There's one particular that is something I've never seen on screen before. So yeah, they find unique ways to brutally off these characters. And the concept of the story, this spirit that comes back, and how they actually lay down the groundwork for that worked well as well. So then, what doesn't work so well when it comes to In a Violent Nature? Well, the structure of the film. It just didn't. work. This film is only 92 minutes. It's an hour and a half, and yet it feels much longer than that, in honesty. And I know it's very intentional. He took inspiration from Gus Van Sant. He wanted it to be methodical, but wow, if you thought the Hobbit movies featured a lot of walking, get ready for the Hobbit movies of horror because I would say at least half of this movie is just following someone walking through the forest. And honestly, I think half of the movie is maybe even underestimating it because we just follow, whether it be the killer or at other points we follow some of these teenagers, we're just walking around for a good portion. There's also no score, which once again obviously was very much intentional, but that also makes the walking in this film feel a bit more tedious. And we're going for this ambient sound with the mixing. And once again, I understand the budget clearly was not large, but this ambient sound mix, it worked at some points, but then we got to dialogue and it was kind of hard to understand people. Some of the sound mix just seemed very off. And these characters. So, a big hurdle you come across when you center the film around the killer is that the people being hunted or the people being killed are hard to relate to and identify with. That's a big thing with horror, particularly slashers. You have the final girl for a reason because you root for these kids. You get to know these people and you root for them to escape the killer. So when you don't spend the focus on them, you don't really know them, you don't really care about them, you don't really root for them. So you really are in this film for the experimental nature of it and the kills themselves because there's not a good character amongst this bunch. And it does not help that all of these kids are dumb as a bag of rocks. Oh, wow, these kids. There's a character here who literally just stands and stares. I don't know what was going on, what she was doing, what the purpose of that kill was. It was horrible. But all of these characters in this film are really stupid. They make really insane decisions that you just do not understand. Oh, it was baffling. And in parts, it's actually a little bit infuriating what our characters are running around here doing. And then we switch point of views. I've seen other reviews say that it's committed to the bit, and I actually would disagree. I don't think it is fully committed to the bit because we don't stay in the point of view of the killer through to the end. It switches a point of view, and I think once again highlighting how difficult it is. Centering a feature-length film around just the killer. Sometimes we're with him, and then at other times we fully break away and we're now following the different teenagers or some of the victims. I really think this might have even been more effective if it was literally video game style, where we were walking around from the perspective of the killer, first person style, coming after these people. I don't know, that might not have been effective either. Maybe with a score, we could have found a way to make this happen, or you just have to cut. There's no way around it. I understand that slasher killers have to walk around quite a bit, but it doesn't make for that engaging of a film to just watch somebody walk around the woods for 45 minutes. And then I have to loop back around to one of the positives being the gore and the kills. While I do highly appreciate the kills and highly appreciate the gore, some of these practical effects were quite hokey. I'll just say that. So if you're looking for like super realistic gore in this like gritty, indie, innovative horror film, you're gonna get a lot more on the hokey side of the slasher kills. Skin doesn't really look like skin. You can tell it's prosthetics. You can tell it's fake blood, the whole bit. So at the end of the day, I appreciate what they tried to do with in a violent nature. I appreciate the risks taken, and I appreciate using your resources to the fullest to make a coherent film. Unfortunately, it reads much more like a failed experiment than a fully fleshed out, satisfying viewing experience. I really think this would have been aces as a short film, but as it stands now, I was just highly disappointed with In a Violent Nature. So if you're a horror fan, I definitely think you should check it out because again, it's something we've been wanting for a while. It's new. It tries to deliver at least a new perspective, although all of the slasher tropes are in full effect throughout, so it doesn't really deliver anything new on that front. I would say go to a theater if you are looking forward to it and are a slasher fan just so that original horror films get that theatrical support. But otherwise, if you're on the fence, just wait for it to come to Shudder streaming. So that was my review for In a Violent Nature. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos. Also, join in on the discussion. Are you excited to see In a Violent Nature? Have you had the chance to check it out at a festival or elsewhere? Let me know all of your thoughts either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.